I'm making this video. I don't want you to think I'm complaining. I'm just explaining something that's happening. So as you can see, cloudy, overcast. So we kind of live up here in the mountains in Missouri. And they're not high mountains. I mean, nothing like, you know, the east and the west, but mountains nonetheless. And we keep getting swooped in with the cloud cover like they do in the mountains, which has been kind of unusual. Now, today it's just cloudy and it's been raining, which is good. We really need the rain. We've been in a huge drought. So as a matter of fact, the well is actually working better today than it has. I've been running out of water in it. And today I was able to run it for, gosh, I don't know, 45 minutes, and it never ran out of water. So I guess the water level is coming back up in the reservoir is what I'm trying to say. Hasn't rained too much here, but up north it's rained quite a bit. So I would imagine the streams and everything's bringing water down to the reservoir. But this year has been very cloudy. Now you may remember, some of you, for the new folks, I'm explaining this. Just so you know, when you live in the mountains, rocks grow instead of grass. You're always picking up rocks. 2 years ago, I upgraded our solar panels so I could start running the well off the solar panels instead of the generator. And it saved us a ton of money. I don't know, maybe 10 bucks a month, 14 bucks a month, something like that, in gas for the generator, propane, whatever you want to call it. So last year, I was able to run all year on the well. Never ran the generator once, but this year I've had to run it a few times because of the cloudiness. So we've been in the clouds for a week now, and I guess we're going to be in clouds for another full week. So today I went ahead and ran the well. For those that are new to the channel, I run the well to fill the IBC tank. And the reason I do that is for exactly this reason. When it's cloudy, I can't run the well on the solar panels. So I fill up an IBC tank when it's sunny, 275 gallons. I run a little RV pump off the batteries, and I can get water into the house out of those 275 gallons. But we were down half on the tank, and I don't like running that low for two reasons. Well, I guess all one reason, it doesn't really matter, is if something happens to the well pump or the generator or anything, I have enough water that I can order a new pump, get it replaced before we run out. So I always try to keep the IBC tank at least half full. Well, we were down to half, and you know, it's cloudy, so I had no choice. I had to run the generator. So today I thought I'd spend a few minutes kind of going over the generators again, kind of explaining what I got and the solar panels real quick, because we have some new people to the channel and they're going to want to know. I mean, I've already been asked a dozen times to talk about it. So I have two of these generators here. You can see one of them's back there. This one's over here. That one's older. This one's newer. I don't run this one hardly at all, but I pulled this one out because I've got the Paralink attached to it, which I'm going to explain. So this is a 2500 watt dual fuel inverter generator. So it's a quiet generator, which you really have to have quiet generators, but you got to run them. Normally, to run the house and the well and everything, this generator is all the power I need. Of course, we have the solar panels, but I'm not talking about solar panels. I'm talking about just generators right now, in the event that we have to have it. The reason I got a second generator was they came on sale. So I went ahead and bought one, and I was going to use it as a backup. So that one I run all the time. Well, not all the time. That's not correct. Anytime I need a lot of power, I run that one. Well, this last summer, as you may know, I've started a lawnmower repair hobby business. I have to run the generator more frequently because the solar panels just couldn't run the tools and the pressure washer and different things. So I run the generator. Well, I also had to have a welder, and one generator wasn't enough for the welder. Well, instead of going out and buying a huge generator for the welder, I thought, well, I got a second welder, or excuse me, generator. I could use it. And so you buy these Paralinks. But I guess before I talk about the Paralink, I should explain what dual fuel is. Dual fuel is it can run off gasoline or propane. So on gasoline, you have 2,500 watts of power at peak. But then once it comes off peak, let's see, somewhere around here it tells me that, so on gasoline it runs 1,850 watts off peak. So 2,500 peak, 1,850 off peak. When on propane, you're 2,500 watts peak, but off peak is 1,665, so you lose almost 200 watts. And it runs 15.4 amps at 120 volts. This one generator does. So, seeing I needed the welder for the, and it's the only time I need that much electric, it's just for the welder. So instead of going out and buying something specifically for a welder or gas-powered welder or anything like that, because somebody's going to have a suggestion on what I should have done, well, I didn't need to spend any money because I already had this. So I think for 50 bucks or 60 bucks or for 30, I don't know, I was able to get this Paralink. Now these Paralinks come with most brands of generators. And what it does is you can hook up both generators. So this goes to one generator, these 3 wires go to that generator over there. These 3 wires go to this generator over here, and you hook them up right here. Pull these caps out, black to black, red to red. And so instead of 15 amps, now you get 30 amps of 120 volt power. Now, there's 2 types of plugins that you can use. And this one is a locking plug-in, so it took me a long time to figure out why we had 2 different plugs. But you can buy an adapter that you push in and lock, and it won't come out. Or this one, which is just an RV, I can get it out. It's just an RV plug. As a matter of fact, it shows a little RV trailer here. So this is what people use for their RVs for 30 amp outlets. So then this comes down to a 120 or a volt. So 120 down to a regular plug-in. So a 15 amp, 120 volt plug-in. RV down to regular. Now I have 30 amps, which was enough to run the welder. Now I can't run the welder on full speed, or the highest amperage. I can get it up to I think 100 or 110 amps, which is all I need for the lawnmowers, which is perfect. This solved my problem. Now what we're going to do is we're not going to run this generator. I know it's just a little OCD thing. We're not going to run this generator unless we need to use the welder. We're just going to use that one over there for all our needs if the solar panels aren't doing their job. So these are pretty nice. Like I said, it runs the well. The well is pretty significant on power usage, but I can run the well on solar panels. Now, we don't hardly ever use these. Like hardly ever. Last year, I don't think I used them at all except for the repair business. Now, people say, well, you don't live off grid, you got a generator. Well, I don't think you could live off grid if you didn't have a generator. Like I said, this is just hugely unusual that we have this much clouds. But like I said, we don't use those hardly at all. Now, this one here is a little Power Smart, and it's a 1,500 watts. I don't think it makes that much power. That's peak, and I've never been able to get 1,500 out of it on peak. I think it's 700 running watts, which is about right. So I use this one all the time. It's a very cheap generator. Again, it's inverter. So you have that consistent sine wave. If you get one of those industrial strength, it cycles and you don't get good hertz. So these are pretty cheap, and I would imagine it's hard to find parts for. Power Smart's Chinese made. Actually, I think it's made in Indiana. But everybody calls them Chinese. I guess it has Chinese parts. I don't know. But this one's 2 years old, and I run it all the time. All the time. Like I said, I hardly run those up there anymore. What I do is I plug my little car battery charger up to this, and that's what charges the batteries on days that we don't have solar panels, like today. So I can run this to the 25 amp battery charger, 12 volt, and it powers it just fine. And like I said, I run it all the time. Change the oil. Every time I run out of gas on one of these, I change the oil. That's about 50 hours, I think, is what I figured up. And which is how often you're supposed to change the oil. But like I said, it doesn't power 1500 watts. I've never been able to get it out of it. I have a freezer, and the freezer I know can run. So I have a 1000-watt inverter in the shed hooked up to the batteries, and it runs my freezer. So when the freezer kicks on, the inverter, the 1000-watt inverter, runs it just fine. But it won't, this generator will not kick on that freezer. So I know this isn't working right. But instead of just calling it junk, well, it's junk, I can't use it, it's doing great for what I bought it for, which is that battery charger. I mean, 2 years for an off-brand Chinese generator. I'm absolutely thrilled with it. Now the Champion, I used to have another Champion, and that's all I've ever owned was Champion until I bought this one. And it lasted 8,000 hours. And it finally gave up the ghost. I think it was the inverter was going out. It could have been the valves, but I really do think it was the inverter going out. So that's why I bought the dual fuel. I wanted the dual fuel anyways. It just makes more sense. The reason I like the dual fuel is, like I said, I don't run those very often. So I don't have to run it out of gas. I can just shut it off and put it away with propane. If you're going to store your equipment, you really got to get the gas out of it, because this gas, it's all alcohol based now. And that alcohol just absorbs moisture. I mean, today, this tank, this gas can, is absorbing water because it's outside. You know, they put those sealed nozzles on them now. This one, they all broke off, so I had to replace them. And I like those sealed nozzles. I know nobody likes them, but I like them because it keeps the water out. Keeps it under, sealed up. Now, people will tell me, no, you need a Honda generator. Well, first of all, Honda is double the price of those. I'm not even sure if Honda makes a dual fuel. They might now. I'm not, but back then they didn't. And I've had a Honda sitting right next to a Champion generator, my Champion, and I really couldn't tell the difference between the two. And I don't understand why I want to pay double the price for a generator that I'm abusing. I mean, I abuse these things. One of the things that I see with generators from the lawnmower repair hobby business is people leave gas in the carburetor. So when you need them, they don't work. Why go out and get a Honda that you're going to have to go get repaired and fixed? And it's, you know, it's just, I just don't see the point of it. But that's another point. If you're going to get a generator, make sure you get the gas out of them. They all got, you open up the side, you go to the carburetor, it's got a little drain valve, you just crack it open with a screwdriver. It's got a hose that comes down and the gas will flow out from the bottom. Now, this one has started using oil. After 2 years, it started using oil. And what I'm noticing is I have to add oil when I run out of gas out of this tank. It may get worse one of these days, obviously, but for now, I just changed the oil. So again, you know, I think this is $2.99. So I mean, I've saved $200 or $300, $400 by buying this and just running the tar out of it. It's absolutely been wonderful. And of course, you know, the naysayers, oh, you don't want to buy cheap stuff. You want to get quality equipment. Or I can buy cheap stuff and I can run it 2, 3, 4 years and get another one and still be cheaper than buying, you know, a Champion dual fuel or a Honda or anything. So let's say 4 years. This thing could, you know, buy 2 of them, last me 8 years, and I'm still a little bit cheaper than the generator from Champion or Honda, definitely for Honda. It's starting to get close with the Champion. The thing is I can save the Champions for the business, and more specifically, in a real emergency. Here's my thinking. You know, everybody talks about SHTF, you know, stuff hits the fan. My thinking is, it's going to be easier to get these little propane tanks for barbecue pits. If the world goes to, you know, crazy, than it is gasoline. Everybody's going to use their gasoline up in a hurry, but nobody's going to be thinking about that propane tank. They're not going to be worried about barbecuing. So you go around to all these barbecue grills and you grab their tank, or you go over to Dollar General and you knock open one of those cages. Now, again, this is during SHTF. I'm not condoning theft. It's just if nobody's around, nobody's using them, you will, you know, survival it's a different story. So you can get those cages and get yourself all kinds of propane, and you'll have a generator. So it makes sense to hold on to these. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on something. So I hope I can inspire you. I don't know, buy cheap. It seems to work, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.